Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing very well. So, I wanted to make a video that would sort of be like an extension to my actual game collection videos, where I would give you guys my personal tips and my own experience as well in terms of actually building up a game collection. Now, I feel like for any of you right now who are looking to build a collection, whether that be a small, group of titles that you kind of enjoy going back to every once in a while, or maybe something more significant in something. Maybe you're looking at the stuff that I have here, and you're like, I want to build something that's just like that. I wanted to sort of create a video that would help put things into perspective for any of you guys who are looking to do that. And, these are, I'm going to kind of go into detail about a few things that you have to really prepare yourself for in terms of your mindset. And recommendations that I have, and this comes not just with collecting video games, but really in investing in anything that you enjoy. And I thought that this video would be kind of helpful to any of you who are looking to kind of go in that direction, or at least just help prepare some of you, who are looking to go in that direction, just to sort of curb your expectations. So I really got started game collecting back in around 2012, 2013, and what prompted it was I was actually looking to acquire both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One at release. And I uploaded a video asking my audience at the time whether or not I should trade in my games. Because what I was typically doing is I would trade in my games at GameStop and use those credits to get new games. And I would keep a small, group of games that I sort of went back and, like to enjoy playing from time to time. But most of the time it was me sort of just exchanging some of these, games that I played once and didn't particularly enjoy, or maybe things that are much longer and I didn't have time to finish. And the idea was that I really wanted to play the new and upcoming video games. I was covering YouTube at that time. I was doing reviews for you guys. And I had GameFly very early on, which was allowing me to sort of get games on release, and really helped me in terms of reviewing games for you guys at the time and really getting out new relevant content to the channel. But I got rid of GameFly, and I got when I first got employed and I started working, I started making money for myself. I started basically purchasing my video games as they would come out, or by brick and mortar shops. At the time I was 16 years old or whatever, and I had no responsibilities. I was making money. I was going to school, and I didn't have to worry about things like bills or gas or anything like that. I was just sort of enjoying life. And so for me, it was like this newfound freedom of really enjoying video games and going out there and able to actually play video games. And for me, it was sort of like living the dream almost, because I had always, up until that point when you're a kid, you have to rely on people like your parents, your friends, birthdays and holidays like Christmas and stuff in order to get gifts. And that could be especially you can be especially impatient when you're young and you want something in the moment, and you're just like, oh, I really want it, and you have to wait until your birthday in a couple of months, or you have to sometimes just plead to the generosity of your parents in order to get that for you. And I was definitely going through that experience. And so when I got a job, it really just was like, oh wow, I can just go out and get something I want, or I can save up and get something I want. I was able to acquire in my case, games and stuff that I wanted to play on release at the time they were released, and it was extremely exciting for me. Now, when the new consoles at the time were coming out, the PS4 and the Xbox One, I was under the impression that I wouldn't be able to afford both of those consoles at release. Again, I was still working. I had just graduated high school. I was starting my first year of college. And, I was just sort of making money, and everything was kind of taken care of for me. The only thing I was paying for at the time was car insurance and gas for my car. But my parents mostly took care of everything at that point. So I was really considering the idea of, okay, do I really want to sit here and drop $1,000 on on both game consoles and get games for each? And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. I need financial help. And so my idea was to trade in my game collection, which at the time was fairly large. Trade in my game collection, and that would go, and help a lot of ways in terms of getting both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And I had thought about it. I had made a video to you guys asking, and I got people from both sides of the fence telling me to do either or. So I had people telling me to keep my collection, people telling me to trade in my collection, that I would never go back and play those games. And ultimately, I had decided at the time to keep my collection, and I started saving up for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One before they were even announced. I believe it was like the middle of 2012 when I first started saving up for those consoles, because I was in the mindset that, okay, maybe I can afford both if I prepare myself and save up like a long time before these consoles actually released. And that's what I did. I was saving up my money. I had set aside, every single time I got a paycheck, I had set aside a certain amount of money for those consoles. I took out cash, by the way, to save that money so I wouldn't accidentally spend it. And I had done that for a good year leading up to the release of the PS4 and Xbox One. I had set down a deposit. When I pre-ordered both of those consoles, I paid them off fully and was able to actually get and acquire both of those consoles on release. So that was sort of my workaround for actually getting both of those consoles at release without having to sacrifice my game collection. So, when you're first kind of setting out to build a collection, it can be very, very exciting. And, I know the first thing I did is I sort of looked at a list of all the releases, and I went on YouTube and I searched those videos regarding, all the games coming out in a specific year or for a specific one platform. And I just immediately kind of went in and made a long laundry list of I think it was 300 plus games of just everything from the most obscure stuff to stuff that I used to play a lot but just wanted to own again and didn't have. And when I first started got into collecting, I just sort of bought things across various different platforms, went here and did that, and there was sort of no, even though I was organized in terms of what I wanted and I knew what I wanted, I was very unsure if what I was investing in, the type of games I was investing in, was stuff I actually really cared about playing. And this is the problem. This is a huge problem, because you see a lot of people on YouTube who like to show off their massive game collections. And you can quickly realize that by watching these videos, if you pay attention to what they say and kind of going through the games, most of them don't play their games. They have these incredible collections of hundreds of games, in some cases thousands, and they don't really play their games, and they don't know which order the games came out and released in, and you could just tell that it's sort of, they're almost doing it for the attention of saying, hey, look at me and look how much stuff I have. But in reality, their time is so spread thin, whether, they have families that they're looking out for or whatnot, and they just don't invest their time into playing games. Maybe they can't, maybe they're too busy or whatnot. And this is something that, a lot of times I feel like is the main culprit for why people don't want to build a collection. It's almost like, well, listen, I don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to go back and play these games. And, I think it's just a complete waste of money. I have always said that everyone gets that one thing that they're super passionate about. It's that one thing that you're allowed to invest in, that one thing that you need to allow yourself to enjoy. And this is extremely important. A lot of times people get involved in collecting something, whether it be games, Pokemon cards, wherever the case may be. You get involved in collecting something, and your brain's telling you this is a terrible idea, why are you buying this, this is a complete waste of money. But it emotionally makes you feel good. It's sort of that dopamine effect of, wow, I just bought this, and it's like, this is exciting, I just bought something, I have it, I've been eyeing that for months now, and it's finally in my collection. I've definitely been there more than once. And you need to be able to prepare yourself for a way to deal with that. I've always said that it's important that you allow yourself to enjoy that one thing that you're passionate about, and to enjoy it, freely, not trying to inject logic into everything. Listen, if you know right away whether or not you care about collecting or not, whether or not, you're the type of person who only plays the new releases, you don't replay your games, fine, But for other people, and this is sort of where I kind of fall into. For myself personally, I really enjoy playing games, and it was almost like I was trying to. It was almost nostalgia that kind of drew me into my love for video game collecting, because I went through my life up until that point being restricted by what I could and couldn't play. I remember one of my earliest memories is I went to GameStop, and I really wanted Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, right? That was like the big thing at the time. Everyone was talking about San Andreas. I really wanted Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I went into GameStop, and I was trying to work around it because I knew my dad wouldn't let me play that game because I was 10 years old or something at the time, right? I was like 9 or 10 years old. I knew that my dad wouldn't let me play the game because it's a rated M game. He was smart enough to read the ratings on the boxes. But my mom was much less conservative when it came to me basically enjoying these games, and she wouldn't mind so much about the rating as much as it's about the content of things. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, if I could just get my mom to go to GameStop with me, maybe I could finagle my way around this and get Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And I remember at the time that when we went to GameStop and I picked up the game, the guy at the GameStop counter, which incidentally was the same GameStop that I went to when I did those driving to GameStop videos. It was the same GameStop, right? The guy at the counter looked at my mom and was like, "Are you serious? Do you know what this is?" Right? Like, and I'm sitting there like, I was like 10 years old, so I'm like, just kind of impatiently waiting, and like internally I want to kill the guy because he ruined my chance. But my mom basically asked me, said, do you feel this is appropriate for a 10, 11-year-old to play, right? The guy's like, no. He just shook his head. He didn't even say anything. He's like, And, it was, for me, when you're a kid and you want that experience, especially when it was new, you have to consider that, like, the PlayStation 2 and all that, that was like the brand new thing. You had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, that just blew people away, right? That was completely a crushing moment for me. And I feel, growing up now, I understand the responsibility of that and the reason behind those decisions, obviously. I understand that. But I feel to a certain extent that it was almost like I was robbed of these experiences, where I felt so limited because I loved video games so much, even at that early stage, and I wanted to play these games that everyone was talking about at school, and that people who had parents who necessarily didn't care about what they played or what they saw were able to experience. And I really wanted those games, and to have those experiences stripped away from me for good reason, because obviously I was young and I probably wouldn't have got the references, and that was probably way too, in hindsight, that was way, I think any of you watching this would agree that Grand Theft Auto for a 10 or 11-year-old is vastly inappropriate, right? And that's why we have rating systems, it's for these very reasons. But I realized that what this is, for me, more so than an opportunity for me to go back and play some of my favorite experiences and to replay some of those games, to experience games that I may have missed and may have the opportunity to really fall in love with. I did when I did that video regarding Condemned Criminal Origins, I said this is one of the best horror games I've ever played, and I still mean that. This game's fantastic, right? But more so than this is as an opportunity for me to play those types of games, this for me is sort of a redemption for trying to reclaim my lost childhood. That's what it is for me. I'm ashamed to say I don't have many memories, or at least I blocked out those memories for one reason or another regarding me being super young. It's really hard for me to remember the days before, like, I'm talking like early 2006, 2006 and before that. Like that to me is where my memory starts to really blur. And I don't know if that's because I started YouTube in 2008 and I am able to go back and watch those videos and it's like, okay, I remember that stuff. But even so, I remember doing all of those things. I remember going to E3 for the first time, and I remember going to the Microsoft conference for the first time. I remember playing Fallout 3 when it first came out. I remember first playing the original BioShock and being blown away. I remember getting my PS3 for Christmas in 2007 and getting Uncharted Drake's Fortune and playing it on my shitty 32-inch tube TV at the time because I didn't have an HD TV. I remember those memories. But everything before that has been a distinct blur. And it's really tough for me to actually think back at those experiences. And I think it's because, I kind of blurred those out from my mind. And I think, during that time I was going through a really difficult situation with school. I was not the popular kid, right? So I think that what I did is, because it was so emotionally traumatizing for me at that time, I blocked those memories out. It was a subconscious thing where I just said, all right, I'm going to hide those memories and those dark feelings away in a corner and never touch those again. And so when I try to pick at some of the even happy memories and the good experiences that I had during those first few years, it's really hard, and I can get chunks. I can tell you that I played Spyro the Dragon. I remember very faintly, sitting on my bed with my wired, DualShock 1 controller playing that game on my original PlayStation. I can tell you I played Gran Turismo 3, but I can't, it's so hard for me to recall where I was, any of the tracks or the music or anything like that, but I know I played that game. So it's this for me is in a way me trying, it's like my desperate attempt at trying to reclaim my childhood that I feel was lost and or stolen, essentially. As pathetic as that may sound, I realize that that's part of the reason why I'm so invested in building these collections and stuff like that. And, that was it's important for me to talk about that because I really feel that for a lot of you, it may be a similar situation. Maybe you're around my age, maybe you're older, maybe you're even younger. And the best thing I can tell you right now is to really savor where you are right now in your life. And no matter how bad it is, the few good experiences that you may have right now at this time, shouldn't be thrown away. And those are really valuable memories. And I know for me personally, building a game collection, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I never thought that it would be this emotionally taxing at times. And maybe, perhaps I'm a bit too vested into it. Some people may say, well, you're in too deep that it's not really that serious. But, I think I beg to differ. When you look at some of these people's videos, I mean, they have entire rooms, in some cases their entire basement is dedicated to the love and craft of this hobby. And these people have literal museums in their house of these games. And that is something that is so scary to me, is that to have that. And as amazing as it may look on camera and stuff, to have that much investment sitting there. And I'm sorry, but life is way too short to sit there and be able to enjoy all of those games. I see people with thousands of Xbox games and PlayStation 3 games across various platforms, thousands sitting there in shelves. And I just think to myself, there is not enough time in your life to enjoy every single one of those games and to enjoy as well, living life at its and being fulfilled and doing all that stuff. I'm not talking about going to work. For some people it may be starting a family. For some people it may be finding someone. For some people it may be traveling the world. There is not enough time for you to sit there and play every single game released under the sun and to have this massive collection. And maybe it's insecurity, which is really the reason behind why these people have these incredible towers of plastic and discs. Maybe it's the insecurity of them wanting to feel empowered, or to have someone be jealous about them regarding something, I can tell you that when I first started this 360 collection, I had 300 games or something like that on the list for the 360. I have 172 or 174 games or whatever it is right now that I made that video off, and that's my complete 360 collection. When I say complete, it means I'm not getting any more games for the platform. It is my full final game collection for the 360 and the PS3 until the day I die. And, I realized that, because I had purchased games. I had bought games like Catherine. I had purchased games like, oh my god, there's some really obscure stuff, some really obscure Japanese stuff. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Like a lot of those Suda51 games, right? I had purchased these games. Deadly Premonition, that's one. The first Deadly Premonition I actually have on the 360. And I had purchased it. And I said to myself, why, when you have no interest in actually playing this game? Why did I purchase Deadly Premonition? Because it's a cult classic for other people who played the game. I don't know if I like it. I have no emotional involvement in that game. It doesn't mean anything to me. But I purchased it with the mindset that because it means something to other people and because it has this cool cult status, it has to be in my game collection. That is wrong. Do not do that. I am begging you, please do not do that. Buy games. If you're going to start a game collection, understand that that game collection is for you. It is not for anybody else to sit there and enjoy. And, you have friends who enjoy your game collection and want to come by and say, hey, can I borrow this? Sure, at your own leisure, go ahead and let people borrow those games. But that game, you're not a GameStop, all right? You're not opening up a game store. You're not starting a business here. This game collection is for you personally. And you need to remind yourself that just because someone else may have some game in their collection doesn't mean you have to have that game in your collection. I mean, I had a bunch of games in here that I had gotten rid of, and that because I looked at it and I was like, I'm not going to play this. I have no interest in playing this game. I had no interest in it before. Why do I have interest in it now? Just because someone else has it in their collection and it's a rare game, so I really want it. It's like, no, that's completely besides the point. The entire point of building a game collection is so that you can go back and play these experiences. So that you can return to these games after many years and relive the amazing memories that you had. And in the case of other games, like I replayed some games that I didn't enjoy initially. Red Dead Redemption. I was one of the few people who back in 2010 when that game came out, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't get into this. I think the game's impeccable in terms of its quality and concept. They absolutely captured the atmosphere of the Wild West, but I cannot get into this. Why? Because I don't like Wild West games. I don't like Westerns. I do not like the genre at all. And I had forced myself to complete the game at the time, and I beat the game. I said, I'm never going to play through this again. And it wasn't until they upgraded the game on the Xbox One X and before Red Dead Redemption 2 came out where I finally sat down and replayed the game 7-8 years later. And I realized, wow, this game is amazing. And I fell in love with it. And I really, really enjoyed the first Red Dead Redemption. And when I played Red Dead Redemption 2, I was completely blown away, and I loved it even more than the first one. Even though the Western genre is still a genre of games that I don't particularly enjoy. So for me, I was able to kind of go back and, play some of these games which I didn't enjoy, and found I had newfound love for them, or a newfound appreciation for them. I was able to enjoy them and really come to a different conclusion than I did originally. And that is one of the most amazing things about having a collection, is to be able to do that. It's not going to be the same every single time. When I went back and played the original Rage, you know, I felt the same as when I did after I completed it the first time. I was like, okay, this is a very solid first-person shooter. You know, I didn't do a lot of the side content and stuff, but I did it my second run through, and I came to the same conclusion about the game, which was that I liked it a lot. You know, but there are a lot of games which I didn't enjoy the first time around that I went back and played and that I actually ended up enjoying. And sometimes, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes you'll play a game which you think was really awesome or you think you really enjoyed, and then you'll play it years later and you'll be like, oh, ooh, this does not hold up well. That's how I feel about it's almost how I feel about the original Crackdown. You know, I know everyone loves the original Crackdown and stuff, but I didn't play the original Crackdown at the time of release. I played it before I played Crackdown 3 when that game came out, and I honestly didn't enjoy it that much. I felt it was okay. That was a type of game that I probably would have really enjoyed if I was 10 or 11 years old, and I just played games just to mess around and have fun. Because I'm so much more invested in storytelling, and that's what I really look for when I play a game. When I go back and I play some of these games that, you know, another one is like Dead Rising. When I play some of these games that are just sort of like, okay, you fuck around and that's like the point of the game, you just have fun and fuck around for a little bit, that to me is not as much of a worthwhile experience, and I don't find those games as rewarding or as enjoyable to me personally, just because it's not, the point of them is not to tell a really compassionate, character-driven narrative. It's to really just provide endless, fun, you know, repetitive gameplay that you know, you're always constantly building something, you're constantly getting something back, you're constantly collecting something. It's like the dopamine of being able to play a game and constantly get something out of it. You know, it's like that's why people continue to play a lot of these looter shooters, because it's like you continue to get stuff over time, you know, and it's like every single time you play the game you might unlock a new item that just came out, or you might be farming and stuff and you might get something super rare or super valuable, and you know, it's just it's the effect of earning something over and over and over again. That's what people, you know, really enjoy about some of these games. You know, I've gotten very aggravated with the emotional complications of building a game collection. And, you know, you guys see my collection on 360 here of all those games I did. And you're like, wow, that's super impressive. But I said this in my PS3 collection, I have an affinity, a love towards the PS3. And I was really, you know, I didn't get a 360. My first Xbox was the 360, because I didn't have an original Xbox, and I went through the entire 6th generation with a PlayStation 2 only. And I had an original PlayStation as well. The Nintendo 64 was my first official console, but I had an original PlayStation. And I have an affinity to PlayStation because I grew up with the platform. It has been with me basically since I was born. You know, the original PlayStation came out in 95, I was born in 94. So it's been with me since I was born pretty much, right? I've had the original PlayStation and been with their brands for a while. And so I have an affinity towards that brand. And I have, no lie, I have pondered to myself, and I've looked at this collection of 360 games and I said to myself, wow, that's impressive, but I love the PS3. I love the PS3. Even though the PS3 gave you, for most of the time, much worse ports than the 360. Some of these games are considered unplayable on the PS3. Unplayable on the PS3. You know? So some of these games are really awfully ported to the PS3, but I have an affinity towards that platform. And I pondered at one point actually getting rid of all this. Trading in every single game, and then rebuying every single game for that. I have to stop myself, you know, when that happens, because that's dangerous thinking. I have purchased these games multiple times over, I can promise you that, you know, because you can go back and look at my collection videos, and you can see that I've had all the Assassin's Creeds, all of them, on the PS3 at one point. You know what I did with those? I traded them in, and then I rebought them on the 360. That's what I did. I traded in all those games and I rebought them on the 360. I've done that countless times. But if you don't trust yourself, you have to pace yourself. It is incredibly important. You got to stop and really think about what you want to do. It takes a lot of preparation, I'm telling you that. It takes a lot of preparation. You have to really seriously stop and think about what you want to do. Think about what game collecting is for you personally. Which platform to you do you love the most? Maybe it is the 360, maybe it's the PS3, maybe it's the PlayStation 2. You know, maybe for you it's the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. You know, think about which platform that you honestly love the most. And then, you know, if you have an Xbox One, if you have both consoles, let's just say, if you have both consoles like I do, you know, for me it's like I've now settled on the fact that I'm going to get the game for whichever console it performs the best on. Because I was thinking to myself, let's put this into a logical perspective. It makes no sense for me to purchase both of these machines and then to get the game for whichever platform runs the worst when I can clearly get it for the better platform. Again, it's almost why I bought Resident Evil Village on the Xbox Series X. It's perfectly fine on the PS5. It's great on the PS5. The Series X has FreeSync, which allows me to play that game in ray tracing mode and to imperceptibly see 0 drops in frame rate. Which to me, it's like, okay, even though I like the way the game played on the PS5 controller more, I love the haptics, I love the triggers, I love the way that game feels on the PS5, I got it on Xbox because that's where the better, quote, gameplay experience is. And honestly, you know, when the PS3 was sitting there with 6-axis, you know, balancing and stuff, when you're playing the first Uncharted, it's like, oh, look how realistic this is. Let me balance the controller from side to side as I go over a log. You know, it's like people were saying back then, oh, it's more immersive. At the end of the day, you know, I told myself I wasn't going to get involved in gimmicks. I wasn't going to purchase a game for a platform for gimmicks. Even though I love the haptics on PS5, I don't consider them really gimmicks. They are, in some efforts, a game changer. But, you know, in terms of the raw gameplay experience, I mean, are you really going to say people who played Resident Evil Village on the Xbox Series X did not play the true Resident Evil Village because it's not on PS5 because of haptics? Like, no one would say that, right? So, I mean, that's why I bought it for that platform. And that for me was that is what dictates my purchasing decisions for whichever console. I always tell myself, whichever console performs the best, I get the game for that platform. And if I have a PC at the time that's capable of outperforming those consoles, then I get the game for that platform. Because I remember very early on, you guys remember when I did that PC building video, when I first got into building a PC back in early 2012, I remember that I still purchased some of those games for the PS3 and 360. Tomb Raider 2013 I got on console originally. BioShock Infinite I got on console originally. And the thing that sucks is I could have played those on PC perfectly fine at 60 FPS max settings and at 1080p, which at the time, you know, when games were running at 720p, that was a big difference. You know, it's like, again, it makes no sense. So I know I kind of ran on a tangent here, but I wanted to really... Everyone talks about, oh, you gotta go out and just make sure you find the best deals, make sure you find and really pace yourself, make a list of the games you want, and really go out there and go on eBay and, you know, really make sure you get the manuals for the games too. You want the full, complete package. Everyone talks about all the exciting things of going out and going to get these games. No one talks about the mentality state of it. If you're emotionally going to get involved in this, it is going to destroy you if you're not careful. You are going to make some of the most illogical, rash, and dumb decisions that you have ever made in your entire life. Repurchasing shit twice, 3 times, even 4 times over because you can't make up your fucking mind on what actually works and what's acceptable for you. And no, not everyone is so so involved in trying to really get the best experience, right? But again, it's like that for me, it was like, first I bought them on PS3 because that's where I played them originally. Oh, but I have a 360, it performs better on the 360, so buy the game for the 360. But I really love the PS3. Really, like, I feel really nostalgic on the PS3 because I had that platform first and because I was always a PlayStation guy. So I'm going to get the game again for that platform. Well, that's pretty stupid. Why did I get it for that platform? I clearly have the better console over here that's going to give me the better gameplay experience. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to trade in those games and buy it one more time. It's the same fucking cycle. Understand where that comes from. And I beg you guys to really just really understand what I'm saying. I really hope that this video, at the very least, can help prepare you for what may happen. And I just want you guys to go in there, if you're really thinking about game collecting, to just really prepare yourself. That's all you can really do, is just really prepare yourself. Make the decisions that you feel is right first. And again, it's okay if you want to build these large collections. It's okay. You get one thing in life. I always say you get one thing in life you're allowed to be truly passionate about and to truly invest yourself in. For me, it's video games. Other people, it's like cars. My dad likes to fix up old classic cars. He has a 1970s Trans Am in his garage right now that he's been working on for the past, 7-8 years, right? He has had many classic cars before then, but that's what he enjoys working on. And I speak to him, and it's very similar to me collecting games, and he understands that now. He sees the similarities. But I speak with him, and he says, Cameron, I feel every single time I work on this car, I get so much anxiety, because the moment I make a mistake, it's like the entire project is ruined for me. And I feel, and that's how I feel, and you can say, games are much, significantly less investment than a super huge muscle car, from at this point 50 fucking years ago. I cannot believe that. You can say it's a much more significantly less investment, that it's not as damaging, but it adds up over time. It adds up over time. When you start getting rid of those games and rebuying them 3-4 times over, oh yeah, that adds up a lot over time. Don't do that. Have a clear idea of what you're heading into. Understand the rules, I guess you could say, and set boundaries for yourself. And it needs to feel right. It needs to feel right here, and it needs to feel right here. It really does. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of longer than I really wanted it to, but again, I haven't seen anyone on YouTube who's really talked about the emotional complications of building a game collection, and it needed to be said, because I can't be the only one who's gone through this. I know I'm not the only one who's gone through this. I've seen people who have equally done the same thing, and I know a lot of people, friends of mine personally as well, have purchased games 3-4 times over. It can be extremely damaging. So anyway, I hope this video finds you well. I'm sorry if I scared you into game collecting. That's not what my intention was. I was just trying to get you guys to understand what you may face if you decide to go down this route, because it can be very emotionally taxing. So anyway, by the way, any of you guys who are collecting games, who have experience with collecting games, please put your 2 cents in the comments. I really would like this to be an open dialogue for people to really come to and to be able to get different perspectives on things. Do you guys really align with what I think and what I feel about game collecting? Any of you who have gone through this personally, who could enhance or add to what I have just explained to you guys, would be greatly appreciated, and we'll go on from there. So sorry for the long video, but again, this is an important one, and I've been wanting to talk about this for months. I really have. I've been really wanting to talk about this for months, and it's nice to be able to get this off my chest. So thank you all so much, and hope you have a very awesome day, and I'll look forward to seeing what you guys have to say in the comments. Thank you.